Welcome everybody to this week's edition of the Recruitment Reality Podcast. Delighted that you are joining us for this conversation, and really delighted to invite one of our oldest clients, actually. So Denise started working with Willo way back in 2019 before we even launched officially to the market. So it's great to have you on board, Denise, and have a chat with you about how things have changed over that time, and you know, in your time just in the business in general. Rather than me doing an introduction, as always, it'd be great to kind of hand over to you, learn more about your background, and obviously, you know, more about the business.
Okay, that's great. So thanks very much, Andrew. And it's really, really good to be here as well. So yeah, I'm one of the two founding partners of Distinctive People. We were established in 2015, and one of our strap lines is that we help organisations prosper through their people. So we basically cover all aspects of HR and OD. And we've got a real interest in organisations of the future, and we have done since we were established. And it's really interesting when we established ourselves then and started looking at organisations of the future. A lot of the things that we were looking at being in the future, particularly I think sort of technology related, are here now. So we always work on the basis of bringing a bit of difference, disrupting things a bit, and challenging our clients. In terms of recruitment, our focus is really executive recruitment. So we tend to recruit at director level and above most of the time, and also non-exec and board roles. So it's not mass recruitment, it's more niche, and a lot of what we do is via search. But we recruit across sectors, although those are primarily not-for-profit. We work out of choice with organisations that have a strong social ethos. We work with homelessness organisations, housing organisations, but also some commercial organisations as well. And we also operate right across the UK and Europe. So that's us.
Yeah, great. It's an amazing business. I've always admired what you do, but I've never really asked, like, why is it that you focused on that specific sector? What made you go, do you know what, we want to work generally with sort of not for profit, you know, I guess people would call them B Corps or whatever, but organizations that are trying to help social problems.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, actually. Our my business partner and I, our backgrounds are very different, and we work with a range of associates, and they all have very different backgrounds as well. So, I mean, my background is in finance. I was in banking in the 80s and 90s, so you know, which is when it was a very interesting sector to be in. So very, very highly commercial. But from a personal point of view, I've always been interested in organisations that do have more of a social ethos. And I think when you establish your own business, you kind of have that luxury of being able to make that choice, and you can bring the commercial experience that I've got, and use that to good, I think, in the social world. And for us, one of the things that we're always very focused on is that we build strong relationships with our clients. When you're working on recruitment, when you're working on people related things, you really need to get under the skin of an organization and really understand what they're about and what their ethos is. And we choose to work with organisations primarily with a social ethos because that's what interests us. And it so for us, it makes it easier to get under the skin of an organisation and to really build relationships with them if you very much admire the work that they do, and we do.
Yeah, and it's certainly easier to in the sourcing world, engage with and inspire candidates when you're inspired by the company that you're working with, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would imagine that makes a huge difference for the actual outreach to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, one of the things that that we see increasingly um, is that and I mean there's a lot of articles and a lot of reading you can do around this, but increasingly the generations that are coming into the workplace now are far more engaged with this sort of social ethos of organisations than certainly we ever were in, as I say, in the 80s and 90s. So this focus on what does an organisation do? What good is an organisation doing, and how is it giving back? How is it contributing? That is more of a focus, I think, for candidates now in a lot of cases, and certainly when you're looking at the level of the recruitment that we do, you know, people who are in very influential positions in organisations really have to buy in to that sort of organisational ethos, whether that's commercial or whether it's a social ethos.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so thanks for the background. As I said, great business that we've, obviously known for a little while now. Tell me a little bit more about, what's the reality of your situation right now? What's the kind of challenges that you're facing as an organisation?
Yeah, sure. I mean, on the recruitment side of things, the this is an all-encompassing statement, but finding candidates is more challenging now. We are seeing in the last couple of years that as I've said, candidates are less focused on moving for higher salary, for example, not necessarily focused on working their way up a career ladder, but looking more broadly and maybe moving within organisations. I think that the culture fit side of things is very important. So people are they do look very carefully at opportunities that have come along, and I think particularly with all of the changes that we've seen in the workplace over the last couple of years on the back of the pandemic, then people have been able to sort of create a balance where there's a lot more flexibility for them, and I do think that people are less inclined to move if they feel that they're in an organisation where it's a good fit for them, and they've sort of carved out I don't it's a well-worn phrase, but this kind of work-life balance, then they're not just going to be attracted by salary and the potential of progression. And I do think we do see that. I think on the other side of the coin, in terms of challenges, it's about the sort of managing client expectations, if you like. So the fact that the candidates do have more choice. I think for the first time in a long time, there are more jobs out there than there are people, and that goes across all levels. So just sort of advertising a role and thinking that everyone's going to want to flock and join you, that's not the case now. So it is just sort of having these real conversations with clients, encouraging them to just think a bit differently about things, having the courage to try different ways of attracting candidates. And as I've said, with a lot of the clients that we work with, it's really about painting this picture of what the organisation does, what the contribution is that it makes, but also being really clear about what it's like working here, and this is what you can have, and it's just moving thinking from a client point of view. I know when you've said that used Willo for a long time now, and we started using it at sort of pre-COVID, and at that stage, it was very different. It was very new for our clients, and it took a lot of persuading in some cases to get clients to go with this, rather than a CV and a supporting statement, or however they traditionally did it. And there was a lot of doubt, but it's just about encouraging them to have that courage and to do things a bit differently, because that says a lot about you as an organisation. I think if you've got the courage to do that and to do things a bit differently, then that's going to be very attractive to some candidates. And one of the sort of pushbacks that we used to get is, oh well, will it put candidates off? You sort of think, well, if it's going to put candidates off, are those really the people that you want in your organisation, given everything else you're saying about the role requirements?
It's really interesting, that final part around candidate experience of the process, and are these going to be the right people? I think the reality is that now everybody needs to be comfortable on video regardless of what organization they work in anyway. What's been, from a candidate experience perspective, what has actually been the feedback from more senior candidates about using Willo or other kind of technologies that you've put in? Because it's really one of the biggest objections that our sales team come up against every single week is, our candidates are too experienced, they're not going to want to do it. So what's been the feedback of both sides, those that have said no and those that have said yes?
Sure. Okay. So firstly, what I would say is that we, and I appreciate, because we work on a much lower scale, you can't do this in the same way that we do with if you're doing high numbers, dealing with high numbers of candidates in the recruitment. But we engage very closely with our candidates, so it is very much a two-way process. We have we go out and find them in different ways. We have conversations with them. We talk them through the process, the instructions and the information for what they're going to experience with, when they do their Willo videos, is made quite clear in the pack and in the conversations that we have. So there is that reassurance, because you are right. Some of the candidates that we have are probably less familiar than others. So I think that when you are dealing with candidates at that more senior level, I think that's helpful. I don't think, I guess I've never been told that somebody didn't apply for a role because of doing the Willo application. So I've not sort of had that as feedback. As with anything, we do sometimes get people that are like, oh God, that was a nightmare, and I don't think I did that very well. They actually came out better probably than they thought. And these are generally candidates that get through that stage, and we're seeing them at interview and talking about that. So, but in a lot of cases, both for candidates and for clients, they say that actually for the candidates that they feel they can put more of themselves into it and put themselves across better on video, and for the clients the same, that you get more of a feel for someone when you're talking like this, and you've got them on video than you can from people just writing a supporting statement. And as you said, Andrew, that we all have to live and work in this way now, even though we can now all get face to face. The fact that we've worked like this, it's here to stay. So people, to my mind, people have to get used to it.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think those that embrace, whether it's us or a different type of technology, Zoom or whatever, but those that embrace the sort of new flexible world, and I don't just mean about remote working, I mean about just being able to speak to somebody across, you know, a continent via Zoom, and, you know, using asynchronous communication or Slack or whatever it is, people that can function in that world are going to do way better than those that can't. And then the other thing, I think it's just typical Britishness, because even when I do a Willo, you know, or even when I do anything, I basically come off and go, oh, I really, you know, I thought I could have done
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
I think that's generally a bit of Britishness, and the kind of a sign of a good candidate anyway.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely. And I mean, what I always say to the candidates when they're sort of preparing and getting themselves into the mindset is that it's not like doing live television. I said, so you answer your question, you can go back, you can sort of watch it. If you're not happy with it, then just wipe it and do it again. And I think when you say that to people and they understand, it's like, oh right, okay, well no, that's okay then. And we also give the candidates the questions in advance, so they can think about it, and think about what are the things that they want to bring out. Because I think from an interviewing point of view, and I know there's two very different schools of thought here, but for me, the purpose of an interview is to really find out more about the candidate that's potentially interested in coming to work with you. So it's not about catching anybody out. It's not at that stage about seeing can they really think on their feet, because if you need that skill in a role, you can test it in different ways. So you want to give people the best chance that you can, to my mind. So for that reason, I would generally give them the questions beforehand.
Yeah, good. And I totally agree with that advice. One thing I'm sort of wondering around your sourcing strategy, is obviously, you know, you've got amazing clients doing amazing sort of social good, etc. Where did typically your candidates come from? Are they coming from within that sector, or are you actually going out of that into the commercial world and, you know, pulling people away that have that kind of, you know, interest of getting out of
Yeah.
corporate world like you have, basically, and moving into, you know, the kind of clients that you work with?
And again, from both. So although we've been established sort of 7 years now, but prior to that, we both worked with a different agency, a different consultancy, but in a similar field. So we are well known in that sort of not-for-profit field, and so candidates there tend to be sourced via our databases, people that we've come across over the years. We're recommended a lot, so in terms of both our candidates and our clients, we don't do any formal advertising at all. So most people come to us via word of mouth and reputation, which is great. And so we are able to source a very wide range of candidates within that sector. But we make very strong use of our wider networks and the networks of the associates that work with us, and also social media. And there you have access to candidates from across sectors. And I think it is about, again, when you're sort of talking to both clients and candidates, one of the things that we talk about a lot is transferable skills, because in a lot of cases we do try to encourage people not just to focus on somebody's experience as such, but to really focus on the skills that they've picked up along the way, and their their ethos and their approach. Because a lot of what comes with experience tends to be more sort of technical knowledge, if you like, and technical knowledge can be learned, but the sort of the skills that you've built up and the way that you do things and the way that you behave, those are innate to you. And so for this reason, you can move across sectors, and candidates and clients, I think, are a lot more open to that as well. And as you said, it is more often the case, not entirely, but it is more often the case that candidates would be moving from the commercial side and more to the sort of social side of things. So yeah, that we source from right across sectors. I think one thing that we do, when I said earlier about providing challenge, one thing that we do challenge on is that you will quite often get clients that will say, oh yeah, we want somebody, we need somebody here with a commercial background, we need them to have a really commercial outlook, but you need to be really clear what they mean by that, because in some cases you can then put highly commercial candidates in front of them, and actually that ethos and approach is not what's going to work for them. So I think when you have got candidates going across sectors, you need to be really clear on both sides. What does that mean? And if you're asking us to find someone with a commercial background, this is what you'll be getting. So we do bring a bit of challenge there.
Great. You're kind of touching on the managing of client expectations again. I'd love to know your experience with that, because from my experience, it's almost impossible to manage clients' expectations until they have the lived experience. Like when I was in agency, a client would say something, you say that person doesn't exist. And it wasn't until 3 or 4 months in that they realized this person doesn't exist. You're right, Andrew, and we can't find them. How do you deal with that challenge on a sort of day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I mean, the terminology that I tend to use is around the I talk to them about pools and ponds. So it's like, okay, so we're going out there and we're looking for someone with financial skills. So you've got a really big pond there, financial skills. Then we need somebody with financial skills at director level. Okay, so the pond starts shrinking. And now we need somebody with financial skills at director level who also has treasury skills. Right, okay. So now that pond is getting very much smaller. And then, not so much the case now, but they could then say, and we also need somebody who is within 20 miles of the office, because they're going to have to be here every day and they're going to have to be on call. And it's like, right, okay, we're now looking at a puddle, and there might be a couple of people in this puddle, and they might not be people who are in the puddle. They might not want to leave their job. So then that, we've got an empty puddle. And so it's just sort of, it's just sort of using technology, using terminology like that, if you like. And it's not always accepted. But I think, as you say, over time, we work with, as I've said, a lot of the clients more than once, so they do get to sort of understand what you can and what you can't deliver. But the most important thing for us, thing is you've got to be open and honest with clients. There's no point sitting there in the briefing meeting going, oh yeah, no, this is fine, and you're thinking, I don't know where we're going to go for this. But you need to start that management of expectations early on.
I totally agree. I think it's just a really common challenge that people have in terms of helping people see what the reality is of the talent market at the moment, and I do think it's going to change soon. But you mentioned social media, and I know you have a Canva wizard in the team. So it'd be good to know a bit more about your social media strategy, really, because I don't think many organizations like yours take it quite as seriously as distinctive people do, to be honest. So it'd be good to maybe just understand a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So I will say up front that I am not the Canva wizard. So we have a brilliant exec assistant who is our convoluted, and she does it all. So I will give her a really vague brief about, well, can you do this, and then can you make this move like that? And she goes away and she comes up with something that's like, oh wow, yeah, this is amazing. This is just what I want. We do put a lot of time and effort into it, because for us, it is our shop window, if you like. So it's how we reach candidates. It's how we help clients understand the range of what we do. But also, a lot of the things that we put out, we put out, they're things that we would be looking at them, reading them. We tend to sort of check stuff most days and see what's going on, what are people talking about. And if I see something that I read and I think, oh, that's quite interesting, then we just sort of get it out there. So we will have themes that we sort of follow, which are obviously based around the work that we do. We're at the moment, interestingly, we are literally in the middle of reviewing our social media strategy and changing our imagery. So in the next week, there will be some new and different imagery coming out from distinct people, but still keeping our branding in there. And again, that's around the focusing on the different disruption and challenge. So we keep it themed, but we do it all ourselves. So it's interesting, but as I say, it takes a while, but it's an important part of what we are. And as you say, increasingly people do say to us, oh, I've seen this on Twitter, I've seen this on LinkedIn, and oh, you put this out, and people seem to enjoy it. So,
well, like you say, it's the shop window, and candidates are looking for credibility everywhere, basically. And if you're not doing it on social media, then how else are they going to find you? One last question, and then it'd be good to get your 3 tips. Just around assessment process, there's this really interesting thing when it comes to headhunting, where and proactive sourcing, where you desperately try and find these people, you desperately try and get hold of them, but then you've also got to assess them for the job. I've always found it quite funny that you're like, you look perfect for this role, and then you speak to them and have to tell them that they're not, or whatever it may be. How do you go about that? How do you go about that process of getting to speak to a candidate, and then what do you do to actually assess their suitability?
I mean, the processes that we put together are tailored to the clients, obviously, but the outline of what we would do, as I say, is you have that initial conversation, as you've rightly said, and yes, you're encouraging them to apply, but from that very first conversation, we're also assessing, does it feel like they've got what we're looking for in terms of the skills, but also how do they come across in terms of potential fit with the organisation. So it almost starts immediately, if you like. We then applications come in, as I said, probably 80% of the time now via Willo and CV, and we then on the closing date, we then pull everything together, and we'll have a discussion with the client, and usually at that level carry out a long listing. So we'll sort of narrow the candidates down based on what we're looking for. We'll then do a virtual interview, which is sort of us and maybe one of the clients as a panel, if you like, in this sort of format. And then those a smaller number of candidates that come through that stage of the process then go through to what is a much more interactive process. And this is where, because one of the other things that we are very focused on is the fact that this is a two-way process. So we're obviously employed by the clients to find them candidates, but it's really important that candidates are coming to the right organisation for them as well. So you have to give them the opportunity to really find out as much as you can about the organisation. So we encourage a final process that involves meeting a range of different stakeholders. It's kind of like it's like a speed dating principle, if you like, but with groups. So you'll have maybe a group of board members on the table, group of the exec team, group of staff, group of tenants or residents or whatever, and the candidates move around and have just sort of 20 minutes with each group, having discussions and answering questions. So we use that and then get feedback from the groups. We use that sort of thing. We use again at the senior level, put them in a question time type environment, so exactly as it is on the TV. So their ability to be able to answer a range of questions and discuss as a panel. So we do that sort of thing. We've had sort of like candidate hustings, if you like, and then generally that sort of culminates in a final panel interview with the board. So and also encourage them to, if you're looking at sort of a homeless organisation, for example, that they get time with members of staff looking at the schemes, looking at, walking around the offices, asking questions. So that it is an in-depth process, and it takes time for clients and it takes time for candidates. But this is such an important decision, for people, both the candidates and the clients, that we put processes together, as I say, that really ensure that on both sides everyone's had an opportunity to really consider this carefully.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing looking at the difference between your kind of incredibly thorough process and then the like high volume process, and actually, just thinking from our technology perspective, how the two things are so totally different, but they both use Willo in very different ways. So thanks so much for that, Denise. To wrap up, it would be great to get your 3 bits of advice, either to other recruiters, to clients, or
so
to candidates.
If I start with tips for candidates, then firstly, just to reiterate, I guess what I was just saying, really research thoroughly and make sure that this is the right organisation for you. So gather as much information as you can, ask as many questions as you can. And really make sure that it's the right organisation for you. If, as part of the process, you are offered the opportunity to discuss with the recruiter, we always put in the packs, for an informal conversation, ring, always take up that opportunity, because you're then in the recruiter's mind, and they will remember that conversation. So always do that. And also, the other tip I would say is really consider your transferable skills, and don't just sort of think about job title and position, but really think about the transferable skills that you've got if you are there looking to make a change. In terms of companies and organisations, I would say my first tip is really be open to difference. Don't just, when you're looking to recruit, don't just go like for like, both in terms of candidates, but also in terms of the roles. Again, don't just fill a job title with another same job title. Really think about what it is that you need in the organisation. So look at things differently. Make sure that you're putting a process together that does ensure a two-way understanding, because it's as important for the candidates to have information as it is the clients, and keep things timely would be my final tip. And actually, sorry, this is more than 3, but feedback, always feedback. We do that. We do that at every stage of the process, and that feedback is really important because it protects the client's brand, and it also protects our brand.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on the last 2 points around, time is of the essence. Even in a long recruitment process like a senior hire, you have to move quickly, but also it is about quality of movement. And then the feedback thing is, you can literally burn a bridge for a candidate in a week if you give them no feedback whatsoever. So yeah,
Thank
totally
you.
agree. Denise, it's been amazing to have you on. Thank you so much, and no doubt we will speak again soon. And thanks for listening, everybody. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, Denise,
Via the website,
what's the
I would
best way
say,
to
because
contact
all
you?
of the contact details are on there. So it's www.distinctivepeople.co.uk. Thank you very much. It's been great.